The planet Zyphora shone like a jewel in the black expanse of space. Its skies were a soft violet, and the sun reflected off the towering crystal spires that rose from every city. The air carried a faint, sweet scent, and the ground shimmered as though dusted with starlight. It was beautiful, alien, and dangerous all at once. And it was ruled by Queen Lysara, a figure both revered and feared across the galaxy. Lysara was unlike any leader humans had ever imagined. She was tall, with skin that shimmered faintly in the light and eyes that glowed like molten silver. Her hair flowed like liquid night, and her movements were precise, confident, and graceful. She carried herself like someone who could command 100 worlds without lifting her voice. Yet, behind her regal composure, there was a quiet longing, a wish for a life beyond the duties of the throne, beyond the endless councils and ceremonies. It was during a diplomatic exchange that she first saw him, standing humbly among the others. Ethan was human, from a planet Lysara knew only through stories and reports. Humans were considered fragile, ordinary, and weak compared to her species, yet there was something about him that caught her attention. He was unremarkable at first glance, medium height, brown hair, and eyes that reflected curiosity more than fear. But there was a warmth in his smile and an ease in his manner that drew her in. He spoke with careful thought, asking questions about Zyphora's customs and technology, but without the arrogance or pretension of someone trying to impress. Lysara found herself laughing at his dry humor, a sound that surprised even her own attendants. Over the weeks, she observed him navigating the alien city, noting how he solved problems others ignored, how he noticed details that even trained aliens missed. It was subtle, almost invisible, yet undeniable. Despite all this, Lysara was convinced that Ethan was harmless. She believed him to be clever, yes, but weak in ways that mattered in her world, physically and politically. She had seen humans before, and most were fragile, easily broken. Yet something about this one intrigued her. Perhaps it was his calm under pressure, or the quiet confidence that came from knowing who he was without needing to boast. One evening, she invited him to the palace gardens, a place where the air smelled of blooming luminescent flowers and the fountains glowed softly under the twin moons. She asked him about his home, his people, and his world, genuinely curious. Ethan spoke with a mix of pride and humility, describing humans not as perfect beings but as survivors, capable of learning, adapting, and thriving in situations far harsher than any alien society could imagine. Lysara listened, fascinated. Here was a species she had always underestimated, represented by someone who seemed ordinary but carried an unmistakable spark of something more. She found herself imagining a life with him, not as a queen, but as someone who could laugh, learn, and explore without the endless weight of expectations. Weeks passed, and the bond between them grew. Lysara began to see him in ways that no alien had ever revealed. He was thoughtful, clever, and brave in quiet ways that mattered. She decided almost impulsively that she would ask him to join her in a union, not as a political move, but as a choice born from admiration and curiosity. She expected compliance, yes, but not greatness. She expected someone charming, amusing, perhaps clever in conversation, but ultimately safe and ordinary. When she proposed the idea, Ethan accepted with humility and grace. "I would be honored," he said, and his words carried sincerity, not fear or awe. Lysara felt a flutter of excitement. She had expected polite acceptance or even nervous hesitation, yet here was someone calm, composed, and entirely himself. She smiled, thinking that she had found what she was looking for, companionship without pretense. But life, as she was about to learn, rarely followed expectations. The first test came unexpectedly. During a grand parade meant to celebrate the union of human and alien, the streets filled with citizens from every corner of Zyphora. Floating banners glimmered in the soft light, and exotic creatures marched alongside alien troops, all performing with precise elegance. Lysara walked with Ethan at her side, feeling proud and content. She noticed the way people watched him, the subtle surprise on their faces that he moved among aliens without fear. Then chaos erupted. A group of masked attackers emerged from the crowd, wielding weapons unfamiliar even to the most seasoned guards. They moved quickly, but Ethan reacted faster. Without thinking, he pushed Lysara behind a crystalline column and grabbed one of the nearest attackers, using their own momentum against them. Guards arrived, but they arrived too slowly, stunned to see a human not only survive the ambush but also assist in countering it. Lysara's heart pounded, but not from fear. She was shocked, amazed, and for a moment unsure what she had just witnessed. She had assumed humans were fragile, incapable of handling the physical dangers of her world. Yet here was Ethan, calm, precise, and effective. After the attack, the palace was in a frenzy. Servants and guards whispered about Ethan's skill. Some suggested he might have been trained in secret, others thought it was sheer luck. Ethan, however, waved off the praise. "I was just trying to help," he said, his tone casual, almost embarrassed. He did not boast, he did not demand recognition. Yet Lysara could see the truth. This was no ordinary human. Over the next few days, Lysara watched him more closely. He handled the palace's complex systems with ease, noticed patterns in the guards' routines, and solved minor problems others had ignored for weeks. His calmness in emergencies, his quiet thoughtfulness, and his ability to see solutions where aliens saw obstacles intrigued her. She began to wonder, had she truly understood what humans were capable of? One evening, while walking in the moonlit gardens, she asked him directly, "Ethan, how are you so prepared for everything? You handle danger, politics, even alien customs as if it is all second nature." She had assumed she married a man she could protect, guide, and, if necessary, control. Instead, she found herself beside someone whose calm mind and quick reflexes could rival even the best alien warriors in her court. Her curiosity grew, and so did the whispers among her advisors. They noted Ethan's subtle strength, but none could understand it. He did not brag, he did not challenge them openly, and he did not seek to dominate. Yet his presence altered the dynamics of the court. Aliens who had thought humans were weak now hesitated, unsure of what this human could do. Lysara herself wrestled with the realization. She loved him, not only for his courage, but for the way he made her see the universe differently. With him, she imagined adventures beyond Zyphora, beyond her throne, beyond her expectations. Yet she also knew that his strength, quiet and unassuming, could change more than just her life. It could alter the balance of power in the galaxy. It was during another ceremony, one celebrating the union, that the first true test came. A rival faction had learned of the marriage and sought to challenge Zyphora's strength. A group of their elite warriors appeared on the palace grounds, intending to attack. Chaos erupted again, but Ethan acted before anyone else could react. He moved with precision, guiding Lysara to safety while using clever tactics to disarm and disable the attackers. The court watched in stunned silence. Aliens who prided themselves on strength and skill were being outmaneuvered by a human they had assumed was ordinary. Ethan did not appear to exert effort. He was calm, deliberate, and impossibly effective. Afterward, Lysara found herself alone with him in the gardens. She looked at him, her mind racing. "Ethan, I thought I knew what I was getting into. I thought humans were small, ordinary, predictable. I see now I was wrong." And in that moment, she knew life with Ethan would be far more extraordinary than she could have ever imagined. The sun rose over Zyphora the next day, casting its violet light over the crystal towers and shimmering streets. For the first time in her life, Lysara felt a mix of anticipation and exhilaration. She had married a human, thinking he was ordinary, yet in truth, he was anything but. And as Ethan stood beside her, calm and unassuming, she wondered what other surprises the human mind and human strength might hold. The morning after the ambush, Zyphora was unusually quiet. Citizens whispered about the human who had saved the queen, and even the palace guards moved with a strange mixture of awe and caution. Ethan walked through the palace halls beside Lysara, calm and composed, as if the events of yesterday were nothing more than a minor inconvenience. But the queen noticed the subtle changes in the eyes of everyone around them. Where there had once been certainty, there was now hesitation. Lysara's curiosity about Ethan deepened. She had assumed that humans were fragile, predictable, and easily intimidated. Yet here was one who not only survived an attack but acted decisively, protecting her without hesitation. She could not deny that his actions had saved lives, and she was beginning to understand that his quiet strength was far more profound than she had imagined. "I've never seen you like that before," Lysara said softly as they walked through the palace gardens. The moonlight reflected off the crystalline petals of the glowing flowers, making the scene almost unreal. "You moved with precision. You knew what to do. How is it possible?" On Earth, we deal with danger in small ways every day. It doesn't always feel like much, but it teaches you to act without panic. Humans, she realized, relied on something else: adaptability, the ability to think, adjust, and act when no one expected it. The Queen decided to test him in small ways. She arranged a series of tasks that should have been trivial for her alien advisors but difficult for a human. To her surprise, Ethan solved them with ease. He noticed hidden passages in the palace, anticipated the movements of her guards, and even predicted the outcome of council debates before they began. Meanwhile, rumors from neighboring systems reached Zyphora. A rival faction, jealous of the queen's power and intrigued by her unusual marriage, began plotting to undermine her rule. They saw Ethan as an anomaly, a weak link they could exploit. Aliens from these factions assumed he would be easy to manipulate or intimidate, underestimating him entirely. One afternoon, during a council meeting, tension filled the air. Advisors from neighboring systems spoke in hushed tones about trade agreements, security concerns, and political maneuvering. Ethan observed quietly, asking simple questions that seemed harmless at first. But each question revealed gaps in their logic, forcing the alien advisors to rethink their strategies. Lysara noticed the subtle shift. Where they had expected compliance or fear, they now faced scrutiny they had not anticipated. After the meeting, Lysara approached Ethan. "You notice everything," she said. "Every small detail. You see patterns that even my advisors miss." "I just pay attention. I've learned that the little things often matter more than the obvious ones." Some grew suspicious, others fearful, but all were intrigued. It was during a routine patrol outside the palace that Ethan's abilities became even more evident. A small group of rogue mercenaries from the rival faction attempted to infiltrate the city. They moved quickly, hoping to kidnap a diplomat and embarrass the queen. Ethan noticed their movements before they were fully visible, reading subtle changes in the air and shifts in the shadows. He acted instinctively. Without waiting for guards, he intercepted the intruders, using clever traps and misdirection. One mercenary lunged at him with a weapon, but Ethan sidestepped, tripping the attacker into a containment barrier. Another aimed a blaster, but Ethan grabbed a reflective surface and redirected the beam, incapacitating the threat without causing harm. By the time the palace guards arrived, the situation was under control. Lysara arrived shortly after, observing from a distance. Her heart raced with a mix of pride and astonishment. She had thought humans were vulnerable, but Ethan had demonstrated a combination of intelligence, timing, and skill that rivaled her best warriors. Afterward, she confronted him in private. "You keep surprising me," she said. "Every time I think I understand you, you show me something new, how much of this is natural and how much is training." "I'm not trained in your way. I've learned from experience, from challenges that forced me to think and act quickly. Humans have had to survive in ways other species might consider ordinary or even weak. But that's our strength: adaptation, observation, and creativity. Humans were clever, resilient, and unpredictable. They could adapt to environments far harsher than any alien society could endure, and they were capable of combining intellect and instinct in ways that made them uniquely formidable." Word of Ethan's abilities spread quietly through the palace. Some advisors whispered to each other, speculating about his origins, his training, and the secrets he might hold. Others were cautious, not wanting to offend the queen but unwilling to ignore the undeniable truth. The human she had married was extraordinary. The next challenge came sooner than expected. A message arrived from the rival faction, delivered by a drone that zipped silently through the palace gates. It was a warning threatening destabilization unless Zyphora complied with certain demands. The palace erupted into debate. Military advisors argued for retaliation, diplomats suggested negotiation, and spies worked to uncover the source of the threat. Ethan listened carefully. He asked questions that seemed simple, yet they revealed flaws in the rival faction's logic. He suggested strategies that balanced caution with action, using minimal resources to maximum effect. Lysara watched, impressed not only by his reasoning, but by the confidence with which he presented ideas, calm, firm, and unwavering. That evening, she took him aside. "You are more than I imagined," she said quietly. "I thought I married a human I could protect, guide, and teach, but I see now that you might be the one guiding me." She realized that life with Ethan would never be ordinary. Each day would bring challenges, surprises, and opportunities to witness human ingenuity in action. Over the next few weeks, the palace prepared for potential threats from the rival faction. Ethan trained quietly alongside the guards, not as a commander but as an observer and problem solver. He suggested improvements to security protocols, identified potential weak points, and demonstrated how humans could improvise solutions under pressure. The alien guards were skeptical at first, unwilling to take advice from someone they considered inferior. But when Ethan's suggestions prevented accidents and mitigated risks during training exercises, their skepticism turned to respect. They began to see him not as a human, but as a strategist whose mind was uniquely suited to solving complex problems. Meanwhile, Lysara found herself relying on Ethan in ways she had never expected. She consulted him on diplomatic matters, security concerns, and even palace rituals. His perspective was different from any alien advisor she had ever had, often seeing solutions where others saw only obstacles. One night, during a quiet walk on the palace terraces, Lysara asked, "Do you ever feel out of place here, Ethan? Among aliens, technology, and customs so different from your world?" "I've learned to adapt. I've faced challenges on my planet that taught me to observe, think, and act when it matters. That's what matters here too, adapting to what's in front of you." The following day, intelligence reports confirmed that the rival faction was preparing a larger incursion. The palace erupted into planning and strategy sessions, but Ethan remained calm. He suggested preemptive measures, identifying vulnerabilities in the enemy's supply lines and communication networks. Lysara approved his recommendations, impressed by his clarity and foresight. As the threat grew, Lysara began to see the true value of having Ethan by her side. Not as a fragile companion, but as an equal partner capable of guiding her through dangers she had long thought manageable only by her species. The first skirmish came at dawn. Scouts reported a small enemy force approaching Zyphora's outer borders. Ethan accompanied the response team, not as a soldier, but as an advisor. Yet when the enemy attacked, he moved instinctively, positioning himself where he could protect both Lysara and the troops. He used clever tactics, misdirection, and quick thinking to neutralize threats without unnecessary force. The alien soldiers watched in awe as a human, whom they had considered weak, performed with precision, strategy, and courage that matched their own. After the skirmish, Lysara approached Ethan again. "You are more than I ever imagined. I thought humans were fragile, but you are extraordinary." Maybe that's enough to surprise a few people. The morning sun rose over Zyphora, casting violet light across the crystal towers. The city was alive, beautiful, and dangerous as ever. But for the first time, Lysara felt a renewed sense of confidence. She had assumed she married a common human, but now she knew the truth. He was extraordinary, and life with him would challenge, surprise, and inspire her every day. And Ethan, calm and unassuming, prepared himself for the days ahead, knowing that the true tests were only just beginning. The morning sun bathed Zyphora in a soft violet light as the city slowly came alive. Citizens walked along the crystal streets, unaware of the storm gathering beyond their borders. Queen Lysara and Ethan stood atop the palace terraces, surveying the horizon. The rival faction had begun mobilizing forces near the outer colonies, and intelligence suggested a major attack was imminent. Lysara had grown to rely on Ethan more than ever. Where she once believed humans were fragile and predictable, she now saw him as a partner whose mind worked with speed, insight, and precision. Every decision he made seemed to anticipate challenges she had not even considered. She felt both admiration and a flicker of unease. He was extraordinary in ways she could not fully understand. Ethan, meanwhile, remained calm, observing the palace defenses, the city layout, and the movements of troops. His mind worked differently from the alien strategists, seeing patterns and possibilities that others overlooked. He suggested minor changes to patrol routes, repositioned defensive turrets, and identified hidden approaches the enemy might exploit. The aliens were skeptical at first, but the proof came quickly. His adjustments prevented several small sabotage attempts, earning the trust of the palace guards and advisors. "What do you see that we miss?" Lysara asked him one evening as they walked through the gardens. The soft glow of luminescent flowers reflected in her eyes. Ethan smiled faintly. "I don't see everything, but I notice things others assume are unimportant." Humans survive by paying attention to the details, even when danger seems distant. We learn to act before a situation becomes critical. A scout ship reported that enemy forces had launched an assault on one of Zyphora's outer colonies. Lysara immediately summoned her advisors, planning a counterattack. Ethan joined them, calm and observant, listening to every word before offering his suggestions. The alien advisors expected hesitation, but Ethan spoke with clarity. He proposed a defensive strategy that combined minimal troop movement with clever traps and decoys. His plan allowed the colony to defend itself without overextending resources or risking unnecessary lives. The Queen approved, and preparations began immediately. As the enemy forces approached, Ethan worked alongside the soldiers. He did not carry a weapon at first, merely observing, guiding, and coordinating. But when the enemy advanced faster than expected, Ethan stepped forward. His movements were fluid and precise, faster than any alien had anticipated. He redirected enemy attacks, neutralized key threats, and ensured the safety of both soldiers and civilians. The alien soldiers watched in awe. A human whom they had once dismissed as weak was performing feats of strategy and skill that rivaled their best warriors. He moved with a confidence that suggested instinct and experience in equal measure. After the battle, Lysara approached him. "You are remarkable, Ethan. You see the battlefield differently, you act with precision, and you remain calm when others panic." "I thought humans were ordinary, but you—" She stopped, searching for words. "I'm just a human," Ethan said softly. "We survive, we adapt, that's what keeps us alive." As the enemy regrouped for another strike, Ethan continued to demonstrate his abilities. He anticipated enemy maneuvers, devised clever ambushes, and used Zyphora's terrain to advantage. Where aliens relied on raw strength or rigid tactics, Ethan relied on observation, intuition, and rapid adaptation. His actions consistently outperformed even the most experienced alien commanders. One evening, as the city prepared for a potential nighttime attack, Ethan walked through the palace corridors. He examined security systems, checked patrol patterns, and noticed a small oversight in the placement of defensive barriers. Without announcing it, he corrected the issue, ensuring that an unguarded approach was now secure. When Lysara saw the adjustment, she realized that his mind worked in ways she could not fully comprehend. He noticed what others assumed was irrelevant, turning it into a strength. The rival faction, unaware of Ethan's true abilities, decided to strike directly at Zyphora's capital. Their forces moved quickly under the cover of darkness, expecting little resistance. Yet Ethan anticipated their approach. Using clever deception, he manipulated lighting, sound, and environmental factors to confuse the attackers. They stumbled into traps and ambushes, often neutralized without violence, leaving them bewildered and demoralized. Lysara watched from the palace terraces, her heart pounding. The humans she had once thought weak were showing a strength that surpassed expectation. Ethan moved among the chaos with calm assurance, directing defenses and saving lives with skill and precision. The alien commanders, once proud and confident, found themselves outmatched by a species they had underestimated. After the skirmish, the enemy commander demanded a personal confrontation with Ethan, believing that defeating him would shatter the morale of Zyphora's defenders. Lysara was torn. She knew the human could handle himself, yet she also feared for him. She watched as Ethan prepared, not with arrogance but with quiet determination. The confrontation took place on a training field within the palace grounds. The commander was large, heavily armored, and confident. He expected to overpower Ethan with sheer strength. But the human moved differently. He used speed, agility, and precise timing to anticipate every attack. Where the commander relied on force, Ethan relied on observation and strategy. He dodged, parried, and countered, never striking more than necessary but always maintaining control. The duel shocked the spectators. Aliens gasped as Ethan outmaneuvered the powerful commander, exploiting gaps in his technique and using the environment to his advantage. Each move seemed effortless yet calculated, a combination of instinct, intelligence, and training unique to humans. Lysara could hardly believe what she was witnessing. She had assumed that her husband was ordinary, a human she could protect. Yet here he was, proving that his strength, mental, physical, and strategic, was beyond expectation. When the duel ended, the enemy commander bowed, acknowledging defeat without humiliation. Ethan extended a hand to help him up, showing respect even in victory. The commander hesitated, then accepted, surprised by the humanity and honor of his opponent. Lysara approached Ethan, her voice filled with awe. "You are more than I imagined. I thought humans were fragile, predictable, and weak. But you are extraordinary. But humans have survived, adapted, and learned from challenges that others might consider impossible. That's what gives us strength." She saw now that humans were underestimated across the galaxy, often dismissed because of appearances, yet capable of feats that rivaled even the strongest alien species. The following days were a mixture of preparation and reflection. Zyphora's forces reinforced defenses, trained alongside Ethan, and implemented his strategies. Citizens looked to him with curiosity, unsure of how one human could achieve so much, yet inspired by his calm leadership. Even Lysara's advisors, once skeptical, began to acknowledge his insight, albeit grudgingly. Ethan never sought recognition. He remained quiet, humble, and focused on the tasks at hand. He guided, advised, and acted when necessary, never boasting or claiming superiority. Yet his presence altered the entire palace dynamic. Aliens who had assumed humans were weak now approached him with caution, respect, and a degree of fear. Lysara watched him one evening as he examined defensive projections. She felt a mixture of admiration and wonder. She had married a human, expecting a simple companion. Instead, she had gained a partner capable of shaping the fate of an entire world. The next challenge came sooner than expected. Intelligence reports indicated that the rival faction planned a coordinated attack on multiple Xiforan colonies simultaneously. Their goal was not only conquest, but to demonstrate that the Queen's union with a human was a weakness to exploit. Lysara convened her council, and Ethan joined silently, observing. When the discussion turned to strategy, he suggested splitting defenses strategically, using deception, and employing rapid response units in ways that the aliens had never considered. His suggestions were unconventional, yet practical, and soon the council realized that following his plan offered the best chance of success. The battle that followed was chaotic and intense. Enemy forces struck at multiple points, expecting confusion and fear. But Ethan's guidance allowed Xifora's forces to respond quickly, adapt to changing situations, and neutralize threats efficiently. His actions combined human intuition with strategic planning, creating a level of coordination the enemy could not predict. When the final assault ended, Xifora emerged victorious. Enemy forces retreated in disarray, their confidence shattered. The aliens finally understood the truth. Humans were not weak. Underestimated and often dismissed, they possessed an adaptability, intelligence, and courage that allowed them to thrive even against superior opponents. Lysara approached Ethan as the city celebrated its victory. "You have changed everything," she said quietly. "I thought I married a human I could protect. Now I see that you may be the one protecting not only me but this entire world. And sometimes that is enough to make a difference." As the sun set over the crystal spires, painting the city in shades of violet and gold, Lysara realized that she had not married a common human. She had married a partner whose true strength was just beginning to reveal itself, and she could not wait to see what humanity would achieve next. The tension in Xifora was palpable. The city's streets were alive with movement, but this time the energy was not peaceful or celebratory. Scouts had reported the rival faction gathering a massive force at the border. Unlike the previous skirmishes, this attack was planned with precision and determination. Their goal was clear: strike at the heart of the capital, defeat Queen Lysara, and show that humans were nothing more than fragile creatures unfit to rule alongside alien royalty. Lysara paced her private chambers, her glowing eyes reflecting the violet light of the twin moons. She had spent weeks preparing for this, reinforcing defenses and coordinating strategies with her commanders. But the knowledge that Ethan would face this threat as her partner filled her with both pride and concern. She had seen his abilities before, but this was the largest challenge he would face yet. Ethan was calm, examining detailed maps of the city and the surrounding territory. He moved methodically, analyzing each route, predicting enemy movements, and suggesting placements for troops, barricades, and traps. Every recommendation was practical, precise, and unusual compared to the standard alien methods. Where aliens relied on strength, he relied on adaptability. Where they trusted rules, he trusted observation. Lysara watched him, admiring the quiet authority he carried. "You make it look easy," she said, unable to hide her awe. Ethan glanced at her, expression calm. "It's not easy, but humans survive by learning to respond to danger quickly, even when it seems overwhelming. I just do the same here." They moved in coordinated units, heavily armored and confident. Their leaders assumed that Xifora's defenses, even with Ethan's guidance, would crumble under direct assault. They underestimated the human completely. Ethan positioned himself at the central command hub, not to fight immediately but to direct the defense. He analyzed the attackers' formation and predicted their movements with uncanny accuracy. When the first wave reached the city gates, it became clear that the enemy had not expected the clever traps and diversions Ethan had prepared. Groups of attackers were funneled into corridors that led to containment fields, their weapons disabled by energy shields positioned precisely where Ethan had instructed. Lysara moved among the troops, coordinating alongside Ethan. She saw firsthand how his calm mind and clear direction inspired her soldiers. Even the most seasoned alien commanders who had once doubted him followed his advice without hesitation. His strategies were unconventional, yet effective, blending defense, redirection, and psychological insight. The rival faction attempted a flanking maneuver, sending elite warriors through hidden passages. Ethan had anticipated this. He instructed small units to guard concealed choke points and prepared countermeasures that forced the attackers to retreat or become trapped. His human mind, trained by years of adaptation and survival, allowed him to anticipate behavior patterns even when they were unpredictable. As the battle intensified, Ethan realized that the enemy commander, the one who had challenged him before, was leading the main assault. This time the commander brought his full strength, confident that experience and brute power would overwhelm the human. Ethan did not hesitate. He moved to meet the threat, not with arrogance, but with calculated precision. The duel began near the palace's central square. The commander lunged with overwhelming force, expecting Ethan to falter under the assault. But Ethan dodged, parried, and redirected the attacks with remarkable speed. He used the environment to his advantage, moving across reflective surfaces, guiding energy weapons into neutralized barriers, and anticipating every strike. Where the commander relied on raw power, Ethan relied on timing, observation, and clever improvisation. Spectators, both alien and human, watched in stunned silence. The commander struck again and again, but Ethan's movements were fluid, almost effortless. He countered every attempt without unnecessary force, demonstrating intelligence, skill, and adaptability that the aliens could not match. Each action was precise, efficient, and effective, proving that strength alone did not determine the outcome. Lysara stood nearby, heart pounding, watching the human she had married navigate danger with brilliance. She had known he was extraordinary, but seeing him in action on such a scale was breathtaking. She realized that she had underestimated not only his physical ability, but his capacity to inspire, adapt, and lead. Ethan finally found an opening. He maneuvered the commander into a position where his strength became a disadvantage. Using a combination of leverage, timing, and environmental advantage, he neutralized the enemy without causing permanent harm. The commander collapsed, breathing heavily, and acknowledged defeat. For the first time, he looked at the human not as inferior, but as a formidable opponent deserving respect. The battlefield erupted in quiet celebration as the remaining enemy forces retreated. Ethan had not only defended the city, but had done so in a way that minimized destruction and loss of life. His human ingenuity had turned what could have been a catastrophic invasion into a decisive victory. Lysara rushed to his side, her expression a mix of relief and admiration. "You've done more than I ever imagined. I thought humans were ordinary, fragile, and predictable, but you—" She stopped, struggling to find words. Ethan smiled faintly. "I am still human. But humans survive, adapt, and face challenges others might find impossible. That's all." She understood now that marrying Ethan was not an act of protection or control. It was a partnership, a union that combined her leadership with his insight, adaptability, and courage. Over the following days, the city began to recover. Repairs were made to infrastructure, patrols were reinforced, and the citizens of Zyphora gained a renewed sense of confidence. They had witnessed a human act with brilliance, courage, and honor, reshaping their understanding of what was possible. Ethan did not seek recognition. He remained calm and focused, helping coordinate recovery, train new recruits, and prepare for potential threats. His presence alone inspired the troops, who began to adopt some of his strategies and approaches. Even the most skeptical alien commanders acknowledged that humans, when underestimated, could be formidable allies. Lysara watched him quietly, feeling a mix of pride and wonder. She had married a human, expecting companionship, perhaps charm or intellect, but not the level of strength, adaptability, and insight he displayed. Each day with him revealed new layers of capability, from mental agility to physical skill, all combined with humility and honor. The rival faction, humiliated and defeated, retreated to their own systems. They had underestimated humans and suffered the consequences. Zyphora's defenders, led by Ethan's strategies, had not only survived but had thrived against a superior force. The victory was not merely military, it was a statement to the galaxy that humans were not to be dismissed or underestimated. In a quiet moment, Lysara approached Ethan as he surveyed the city from the palace terraces. "You've changed everything. she said softly. "I thought I married a human I could protect, guide, and teach. Now I see that you might be the one guiding me, and maybe even this entire world." She understood now that life with Ethan would be far more extraordinary than she had imagined. He was not just her partner in life. He was a force that could shape the destiny of a planet, and perhaps even influence the course of the galaxy. As the sun set over Zyphora, painting the crystal towers in shades of violet and gold, Lysara realized that she had not married a common human. She had married someone whose true strength, mental, physical, and moral, was only beginning to reveal itself. And with him by her side, she felt a renewed sense of hope, courage, and anticipation for the challenges and adventures yet to come. The city, once calm and orderly, now buzzed with a new energy. Citizens spoke of the human who had defended them with brilliance and honor. The palace guards and advisors, once skeptical, now looked to him for guidance and inspiration. Even the queen's own understanding of what it meant to be strong and capable had shifted. Ethan, standing silently beside her, watched the horizon. He knew the galaxy was full of challenges, dangers, and unknowns. Yet he also knew that humans, underestimated though they were, had the potential to face and overcome almost anything. He would continue to adapt, to observe, and to act when necessary. And in doing so, he would continue to prove that strength was not only measured in power or size, but in courage, intelligence, and the ability to rise to the occasion. Lysara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of both responsibility and excitement. The future of Zyphora and the reputation of humanity was now intertwined with Ethan. Together, they had defended a city, repelled an invasion, and changed the perception of humans in the galaxy forever. And as night fell over the glowing spires, both queen and human understood the truth. Underestimated or not, humans could be a force unlike any the galaxy had ever known. And the story of Ethan, the human who had revealed his true strength, was far from over. The days following the great battle were filled with rebuilding, reflection, and cautious celebration. Zyphora had survived the largest threat it had faced in decades, and its citizens moved about the crystal streets with a renewed sense of confidence. Shops reopened, children played in the glowing parks, and even the quiet hum of the city's transport system seemed more vibrant than before. But amidst the recovery, Queen Lysara's mind remained on Ethan, the human who had changed everything. Ethan moved quietly among the people and the palace staff, observing, guiding, and assisting wherever needed. He had no desire for recognition, yet his influence was everywhere. Defensive measures he had designed now protected the city. Patrols he had adjusted moved efficiently, and subtle improvements he had suggested made daily life safer. Even alien advisors who had once questioned him now deferred to his judgment with respect, and in some cases, awe. Lysara found herself walking beside him in the palace gardens, where the flowers shimmered softly under the twin moons. "You've done more than I ever imagined," she said quietly. "Not just in battle, but in how you've changed this city. And the way you've guided my people, it's remarkable." Instead, she had found a partner who could inspire, lead, and even teach her. He was extraordinary, and she understood that his strength went far beyond the battlefield. It was in his mind, his courage, his ability to adapt and to act when others hesitated. In the days that followed, the queen and her human husband worked together to stabilize Zyphora further. They coordinated defenses, improved the city's infrastructure, and forged alliances with neighboring systems. Ethan's insight into human ingenuity became a powerful tool for diplomacy. His calm, thoughtful approach and his ability to anticipate problems impressed alien leaders, who began to reconsider the underestimated human species. One morning, as the palace council met to discuss trade routes and diplomatic agreements, a messenger arrived with news from Earth. Humanity had learned of Ethan's deeds and the respect he had earned among aliens. The reports praised his intelligence, bravery, and ingenuity, noting that a single human had changed the course of an alien world's defense. While the council members were fascinated, Lysara felt a surge of pride. The human she had married was becoming a symbol of humanity's potential, far beyond her expectations. Despite his growing reputation, Ethan remained humble. He focused on observation and planning, guiding Zyphora with patience and intelligence. Where other leaders might have sought glory, he sought only solutions and stability. The queen noticed how humans could combine mental agility, creativity, and courage in ways aliens could not anticipate. His actions spoke louder than any speech or decree. The peace that followed was not without its challenges. The rival faction remained in nearby systems, wary and plotting, but they had learned a lesson. Humans could not be dismissed. Whenever scouts approached Zyphora's borders, Ethan's strategies anticipated their movements. When diplomats arrived to negotiate peace, he suggested clever compromises that strengthened the city's position while preventing unnecessary conflict. Each small act reinforced the HFY truth. Humanity's adaptability, intelligence, and ingenuity were a force to be reckoned with. Lysara spent more time with Ethan during these months, observing him as he interacted with both her people and the alien visitors. She realized that his strength was not only in combat or strategy, but in the way he inspired confidence. Soldiers and citizens alike found courage in his calm demeanor and clever thinking. Even skeptics began to admire his humility, his insight, and his unwavering focus on protecting lives rather than seeking personal glory. One evening, the queen and her husband walked along the terraces overlooking the city. The violet and gold sunlight reflected on the crystal spires, casting a shimmering glow across the streets below. Lysara spoke softly, her voice filled with awe. "I have watched humans from afar, but I never truly understood what you were capable of. I thought you were fragile, ordinary, predictable. But you have shown me a strength unlike any I have seen." It was the combination of observation, intelligence, courage, and adaptability that made him extraordinary. In a way, she had married not just a human, but the embodiment of humanity's underestimated potential. As time passed, the queen and her husband worked together to strengthen their city and its alliances. Ethan's insight into human behavior, combined with Lysara's understanding of alien culture, created a balance that benefited Zyphora greatly. Trade flourished, defenses were enhanced, and the citizens found renewed trust in their leadership. Other species began to see humans differently, not as fragile and ordinary, but as adaptable, clever, and capable partners in governance and survival. One afternoon, during a council meeting, an ambassador from a distant system approached with cautious respect. "Queen Lysara, we have heard of the human you have married," the ambassador said. "His actions have not only protected your world but also demonstrated the ingenuity of his species. We wish to strengthen our ties with your city and with humanity itself. It is in observation, in adaptability, and in courage that allows humans, and anyone, really, to survive and thrive." They were survivors, thinkers, and problem solvers, capable of influencing events on a scale the galaxy had rarely witnessed. In the quiet moments that followed, Lysara reflected on her journey. She had thought marriage to Ethan would be a quiet companionship, a partnership with a being she could protect and guide. Instead, she had found someone who taught her, inspired her, and changed her understanding of strength. Humans, she realized, were not to be dismissed or underestimated. They were clever, resilient, and courageous in ways that could reshape the galaxy. The city continued to thrive under their combined leadership. Ethan's strategies ensured that Zyphora remained secure, prosperous, and respected by neighboring systems. His presence changed the perception of humans across the stars. Alien species that once considered them weak now approached with curiosity and respect, eager to understand the species that had produced such ingenuity and resilience. Lysara often found herself in awe of her husband's calm, thoughtful nature. He never sought glory, never demanded recognition, yet his influence was undeniable. He guided, advised, and acted when necessary, demonstrating that human potential was not just physical or tactical but rooted in observation, intelligence, and courage. One evening, standing together on the palace terraces as the city glimmered under the twin moons, Lysara spoke softly. "You've changed the way I see humans, and perhaps the galaxy as well. I thought I married a human I could protect, but I see now that you are the one who protects, guides, and inspires. Humans survive by learning, adapting, and facing challenges. That's all. It may seem extraordinary to others, but it is simply what we do." She understood now that life with him would be full of surprises, growth, and partnership unlike anything she had ever imagined. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Zyphora's citizens continued to thrive, inspired by the union of queen and human. Aliens who once dismissed humans now sought their counsel, eager to learn from a species that combined cleverness, courage, and adaptability in ways they had underestimated. The HFY truth had been proven. Humans were capable, resilient, and extraordinary when underestimated. In private, Lysara and Ethan spent quiet moments reflecting on their journey. They talked of Earth, of human history, and of Zyphora's future. They discussed ways to combine human ingenuity with alien technology to create solutions that neither species could achieve alone. Their partnership became a symbol of cooperation, resilience, and mutual respect, inspiring not only their citizens but others across the galaxy. One afternoon, as the twin suns of Zyphora began to set, painting the sky in violet and gold, Lysara turned to Ethan. "I thought I knew what strength meant," she said, "but I see now that it is more than power or skill. It is intelligence, courage, adaptability, and the willingness to act when others hesitate. You have shown me that every day." Humans survive by learning and adapting. Perhaps that is why we appear ordinary until we are tested. Then our strength becomes clear. Humans were underestimated, yes, but their potential was extraordinary. As night fell over the glowing city, Lysara and Ethan stood together, gazing at the stars above. The battles had been won, the city was secure, and the citizens of Zyphora thrived. But the story of humanity was just beginning. Their partnership symbolized a new era, one in which humans were no longer underestimated, one in which courage, intelligence, and adaptability were recognized across the galaxy. Ethan placed a hand gently over Lysara's, a quiet gesture of partnership and trust. "The galaxy is full of challenges," he said softly, "but humans survive, adapt, and act when it matters most. That is what allows us to make a difference. It is courage, intelligence, and the will to rise to the occasion." They had shown the galaxy that ordinary appearances could hide extraordinary strength, and that resilience, adaptability, and courage could triumph against even the most formidable opponents. And as the night settled over Zyphora, Lysara and Ethan stood together, ready to face the future. They had survived the greatest threat, reshaped perceptions, and proven the truth of humanity. Underestimated but unstoppable, fragile only in appearance, yet extraordinary in reality.